Thank you so much, Bob. It's a real pleasure to be here. Happy Lovelace, happy Lunasa, and happy Green Spirit. Thank you for being here today. So, um, as Bob said, I'm a minister with Circle Sanctuary, and I have specialized in children and family ministry. But today I'm going to do a presentation. Adults, feel free to go get a copy, but don't go too far because we're going to be doing a craft project that everyone can do. It's for all ages, and it's actually a magical technique. So this time of year, there's so many things that are associated with Lunasa. There is the grain and the harvest and the greening of the land. But one of the things that I associate it with is color. The colors are so rich this time of year. If you haven't gone to a prairie or taken a walk and seen the wildflowers, whenever you can, however you can, get out of your house and do it, because this is a time of color. This is when the butterflies are all over the place. And so I wanted to bring you a really colorful activity today that would be fun, but also actually teach some really important magical techniques. Magic is something that anybody can do. You don't have to believe anything specific. You don't have to be a grown-up. You don't have to have studied for years and years and years. It's a gift given to us by the gods for everyone. And there's lots of different types of magic, but the magic of symbols or sigils is something that is incredibly ancient. So what is a sigil? Well, a sigil is sort of a fancy word for a seal or a symbol. And a symbol is simply a picture that means more than the picture itself. So let's say I were to show you, oh, here's a book we're going to look at later, but there's a woman with a little kid. That's wonderful. It's a beautiful picture. It tells a story, but it's pretty complicated. What if I wanted to communicate something to you really fast? And there's lots of symbols that we already know. So symbols are pictures that are simple but contain more meaning. So here I've got my little dry erase board. Let's take a look at some symbols that most of us are probably pretty familiar with. In at least this part of the world, if you see a red octagon, you don't even need to have a word in there to know what does that mean. That means stop, the stop sign. But there's nothing about being a red or having this many shapes or sizes that means stop. But we've all just agreed that this means stop. Or what about this symbol down here? Can you see? This green one that looks like an S with some lines through it. In this country, that means money or dollars. There's nothing, this doesn't look like a picture of money. It doesn't look like a dollar bill. It doesn't look like a coin, but we all know that it means money. Or what if, this is my really art here, but what if I saw this on a flashing light with this sort of orange thing that's supposed to look like a hand? If I'm at a crosswalk, that's going to mean something really specific. I don't need anybody to write it down or tell me. I need to know that that means don't walk. And then there's some symbols that have sort of bigger, more abstract meanings, such as this one. What symbol is that? Yeah, that's a star right there. Now, talking about stars, does this really look at the star? Like the last time you went out in the night sky and you looked up, did you see something like this that had like 5 points all around like that? Is that really what a star looks like? Not really. I mean, sometimes if you squint, you can kind of see little lines coming off, but I didn't see 5 last time I looked up. But we've all kind of agreed that this shape is a star shape. And we use it for a lot of things. Like, for example, when I was in school, if I did a really good job on a test or a paper that I was working on, my teacher would sometimes put a sticker with a star on it. And she didn't have to tell me. I knew that that meant I'd done really well. And ever since then, if I see a star on something, I know that that means it's special or really good. And so that's the meaning that it has for me. There's some other shapes. We've got over here, this one here, the red one, if you can see that. What's that? I think everybody in our culture could tell you that that's a heart. Does it look like an actual heart if you see a picture of one in a book? Not really, but we've all agreed that that's a heart. But it means more than this organ that's in our chest that goes ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. It also means, we've decided that that means love. Our hearts actually don't have that much, our physical hearts don't have that much to do with love. That's in our brains. But we've decided as a society that the feeling of love for each other and love for something is going to be symbolized by the heart in our bodies and this picture of a heart. And then there's some more modern symbols. If I drew that about, 15 years ago, nobody probably would have known what it means. But everybody these days probably knows that something like that, this little smiley face on a little pile, means poop. So there's old symbols, there's new symbols, and all symbols have power, and they can mean something, and we can use that. In magic, what we can do is we can take symbols, and by using them in our magic, we can use them to help focus our mind. So, it might, for example, if I'm doing magic and I want it to be about love, I could write out the word love, but it might mean a lot more to me if I just drew that heart shape. And there's lots of symbols. There's ancient symbols. There's symbols that are very powerful in magic. You can learn a lot about there's ancient symbols. There's runes, which are symbols that have particular power and particular meaning. But particularly when you're starting out, and maybe when you're a kid, you don't need to know any of that to get started with symbols. And so that's what we're going to be trying to do today. We're going to be using symbols to create magic, and we're going to be using a special technique. So starting out, let's talk about how we might use a symbol with magic. So remember that stop sign? What if I was wanting to do magic to get, so say my neighbor's cat likes to hang out by my bird feeders and chase the birds. What if I didn't want the cat to do that? Maybe I use magic and I make a stop sign symbol because I want the cat to stop. Or maybe something's really maybe I want something to be special. Maybe I'm putting together a birthday party for my mom pretty soon, and I want it to be really special. Well, for me, remember how I told you that star shape is really special, means that something's special? Maybe I might draw a star as part of my magic, because that means special to me. For you, it might be something different. Maybe you draw a cupcake instead. Whatever it is, the important part about symbols is that it means something special to you. So let's talk about what the technique that we're going to be doing today. What we're going to be doing is something called salt painting, and it's really fun. It's really awesome. You can do it with materials that you probably already have, or if you don't have to worry about it, because those materials are probably things that you can pick up in the back-to-school supplies at your local grocery store. What we're going to need today is, starting off, you're going to need some stiff paper or cardboard. We want it to be stiff because we're going to be getting it pretty wet, and if it's normal paper, it might rip or break. To do that, I actually, because I didn't want to spend any money, I cut up some old file folders that I had in my home office. So talk to your parents before you start cutting up their file folders, or just next time a box comes from Amazon or something like that, cut it up and use the cardboard for that. The next thing that you're going to need, and this is a very important ingredient here, glue. Totally normal school glue, white glue that you can get anywhere. You're going to need that. You're going to need plenty of it. Make sure it's not totally dried up. And then you will need some paint. Easiest one to do, watercolors. This is a watercolor set my daughter has, costs about $2. Doesn't have to be fancy, and you don't need much of it. So if you've got an old watercolor set that's totally dried up, then that's fine, because you can use that. And finally, the last thing we're going to need is salt. So just totally normal table salt. You'll need a fair amount of it, so just don't use up your salt shaker. Get a thing of salt, or I've got my little salt cellar here that's got salt. and a spoon. I also grabbed, I've got 2 cups for my water. You don't have to do this. I'm just a little bit persnickety. One I'm going to use for clean water and one I'm going to use to wash my brush with, and my brush. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my symbol. And I'm going to pick my magical intention. Now, I'm not sure about you, but every now and then I've had nightmares. And recently my daughter has been having a lot of nightmares and a lot of being afraid at night of monsters in her bedroom. Don't know if that ever happened to you. It definitely happened to me. But what if you wanted the nightmares or the monsters to go away? Well, one symbol that pretty much all of us know here is, have you ever seen a sign that's no smoking or no dogs allowed or no this or no that? A lot of times what we do when we do a symbol for that is a circle with a line through it. See right there? So if you're going to do magic for no this, one of the things that you could do, if it means, if that makes sense for you, is a circle with a line through it. On this paper, I have drawn a really, really bad picture of a monster. I just used my crayons. It doesn't have to be great art. So to do my magic symbol, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my school glue, and I'm going to take the monster, and I'm going to draw a big circle of glue around that monster. There you go. And then I'm going to draw a big line through it. You can be really thick with the glue. It doesn't matter. Just draw it all the way through until you've got a big, not sure if you can see that there. It's all white, so it's kind of hard to see. But monster with a circle with a line through it. Then the next step you're going to do, take your salt, and you're going to need a lot of it. That's why I'm using a spoon here, and sprinkle the salt all over your glue. Now, you'll use a lot, and it's a little bit messy, which is why I'm using a cookie tray here so that my table doesn't get all salty. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle all around, get it nice and covered. And not sure if you've done this when you're making cookies, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the paper and I am going to shake it a little bit, and I'm going to shake off all of that salt because I don't want it on there. And so now it's hard to see, but what I have is this super grainy, salty glue right there. And I did that with a picture that I'd already drawn, but you can do it with all kinds of other symbols as well. One I did yesterday was one very powerful symbol is that we use a lot in our religious tradition is a pentacle, which is a 5-pointed star surrounded by a circle. And so if I wanted maybe to use in my magic, maybe I just want to make something to show that it's sacred, or a pentacle can be used for protection, then I can just use my glue to draw a pentacle, just like this. Drawing pentacles is difficult, but you get better with practice. It's particularly difficult with glue. And then, once again, I take my salt and I sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. I make sure that the whole thing gets really salty. And then this is a really important part. Don't forget to shake this off, because otherwise the glue is a little bit wet, so the paper is going to get a little bit soggy. And if you've still got salt on it, then the salt will stick. So I've got my super salty pentagram there. Then what I have to do is I've got to let these dry. So this is not an instant craft. It's best to leave them overnight, but you can also put on a sunny day, you can put them outside. Or I actually found it worked really well to put a baking sheet on them that I used to rest cookies so that the air could circulate under it, and I just put it near a air vent and it dried out pretty quick. So the next day, what you're going to get is this dried off salt. You want to shake off the excess, and what you'll end up with is something that kind of looks like this. This is, for some magic I want harmony and good things to come into my family. So I drew a little picture of my family, just stick figures, and then I drew a spiral around it. And a spiral is a powerful symbol for bringing things in. And this is where the magic happens, because this is where I get to add the color. Now, symbols can have meaning, but colors can have meaning too. And you can decide what the meaning is. I'm going to start out with red for this, for my symbol, because I think about red and I think about love, and I want love to be in my family. So I'm going to get a lot of paint and I'm just going to touch it, just a drop, to my salt. I don't have to do much because, let me see if I can show you here. What happens is that when you add water or paint, the salt crystals soak up the paint and it starts moving on its own. And that's really cool. So I got my, so I added red, and then let's do a bit of orange. And I want orange because orange makes me think about activity and getting out and being energetic and happy. And so I'm going to add some orange into it. So I add the paint, and I'm not painting it, I'm just sort of dabbing it on. And then I'm going to take some clear water and I add the clear water next to the orange, and it just keeps moving by itself. So as I go on and on, I can add yellow because I think that yellow means healthy, and I want my family to be healthy, particularly in these times. And again, I'm just going to keep adding paint and keep adding water. And my symbol and the salt soaks up the paint and soaks up the water. Now, this is just a fun art project that you can do, but to make it magic, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about what I want to add. So I want green for growth and prosperity so that we always have money, we always have good things to eat. So I'm adding green for that, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm putting all of that into the painting. And blue, for me, blue means good emotions, so I just a drop, and it starts spreading out. See if I can show this to you right here. Show how it does. So you can see I'm adding the blue there. Watch what happens when I just add clear water. It keeps on going, and it grows. And so it's going to spread all the way around. And as I work, as I add my paint, I'm going to think about the magic that I'm putting into this. And when I'm done, all the colors start blending together and show, and turn into this really interesting sort of organic artwork. So this is actually a pentagram picture that I did this morning. And again, I just used 3 different colors and some water, and I added that all together. This is another one that I did when I was thinking about seasons coming together. You see, it's, you're not going for neat, you're not going for tidy. Oh, this is another one I did this morning really fast, and this was to help my garden grow. What I did was I had a symbol. I made a symbol of my garden growing, and then I thought about all the colors and all the things I wanted, and I just sort of drew a flower shape around it. It was just a little swirly. It's pretty wet right now, you can see, but as it dries, it'll get it'll sort of get a little bit cleaner and drier. And then what can I do with these? Well, if we've got a family altar, you can put it at your family altar. You can put it up on your wall. You can even burn these if your family is going to have a sacred fire, or you can just fold them up really tight or put them in an envelope and let the magic work. And all of that is magic that you can work to make things go. So really, the possibilities are endless. Salt is a crystal. Crystals are wonderful. Crystals are magic things. Salt is also used a lot in magic for purifying. So the way I think about this when I'm doing this art project as magical working, I think about it like that first I'm sort of putting down the salt, those clear white lines. It's about sort of the purity of my intent. It's like, okay, here's the blank slate. I've got nothing. And then I'm going to put this, sort of clear the decks, make a sacred space for my art with the white glue and the salt, and then I add the color, and the color is really where the magic comes from. If I just leave it white, there wouldn't be anything, but I have to add all of those things in, and I have to think about what the colors mean, and I have to think about the symbols. So you can do this on your own. Again, it's a 2-day project. Make your art, let it dry, come back, add the color, and then you've got something absolutely gorgeous that's both art and can be magically extremely powerful. I want to conclude, and I think we got enough time here with I always love a story. Well, you know me, I really, really love storybooks. And there is one that I got recently that I just think is awesome for Lunasa. And that's a book called Fry Bread, a Native American family story, which is written by Kevin Noble Mallard and illustrated by Juana Martinez Gale. And it's a wonderful book because this is the one thing that's really appropriate for this festival is bread and the things that we harvest and work together as a family to make. But we don't have to be stuck with just like normal old loaf bread. Loaf bread is sacred, and particularly for those of us whose ancestors came from Europe, then, you know, people make loaf bread, but people have been making different types of bread all over the world. In Mexico, people made tortillas. In Japan, people made mochi out of rice. There's naan. There's all kinds of bread. And for people, for the past couple hundred years who are from North America, native people have been making fry bread, and it's a really important part of their culture. And so we can celebrate all of that bread and coming together, no matter what kind it is. So this is Fry Bread, a Native American family story. So you can see Grandma here bringing the fry bread out. Fry bread is food. Flour, salt, water, cornmeal, baking powder, perhaps milk, maybe sugar, all mixed up together in a big bowl. See all those kids? Wow, they are excited. Oh, they're with Grandma, and the little baby's got one. Baby's really enthusiastic too. Fry bread is shape. Hands mold the dough, flat like a pancake, round like a ball, or puffy like Nana's softest pillow. Oh, making a mess, that's fine. Never make bread without making a mess. Fry bread is sound. Skillet clangs on the stove. Fire blazes from below. Drop the dough into the skillet. The bubbles sizzle and pop. This is a good one. If you're making fry bread, let the grown-ups put it in. Fry bread is color. Golden, brown, tan or yellow, deep like coffee, sienna or earth, light like snow and cream, warm like rays of sun. Fry bread is flavor. See beans or soup, smell tacos, cheese and vegetables, delight in honey and jam, rise to discover what brings us together. There's the dad he's carrying that big thing of fry bread over there while the kids are getting their favorite things. There's a lot of different people around the country who do fry bread in different ways, so there's tons of ways to eat it. Fry bread is time. On weekdays and holidays, supper or dinner, powwows and festivals, moments together with family and friends. There's your mom and a dad, all those kids all coming together around the table. It's one of the fun parts about festivals is getting to come together and eat. Fry bread is art, sculpture, landscape, portrait, our daily craft, shared from teacher to student, a cycle of heritage and fortune. Look at all the different crafts they're making. They're doing that. Looks like they're making some baskets. And mom's showing some traditional dolls. Looks like the baby's getting tired and going to sleep. Fry bread is history. The long walk, the stolen land, strangers in our own world. With unknown food, we make new recipes from what we have. There's the elders talking to the kids. A lot of bad things happen to Native people, both in past centuries and recently. And fry bread is part of that history. So the kids are listening to their elders and learning about what happened. Fry bread is place. Alaska, Kansas, all the way to Maine, down to Delaware, on to Georgia, over to Oklahoma, Colorado, and California. Cities and lands that we call home. This is where my pronunciation gets challenged. Fry bread is nation. Abenaki, Apache, Arapaho, Ojibwe, Oneida, Oglala Sioux, Rosate, Navajo, Nipmuc, Seminole, Shoshone, Sac and Fox, hundreds and hundreds of tribes. It's hard to see, but you can see all of the names of the tribes behind there, and they're talking to the kids about it. It's a great book. Fry bread is everything. Round, flat, large and small, north, south, east and west, brown, yellow, black and white, familiar and foreign, old and new. We come together. Fry bread is us. We are still here, elder and young, friend and neighbor. And you can see all those people are from our family, and they're all native peoples here, but they look so different. Different ages, different looks, all here, and they're all together. We strengthen each other to learn, change, and survive. That baby is really excited about the fry bread. Fry bread is you. The end. And the book ends with a recipe for Kevin's fry bread passed down, and some actual really excellent information for grown-ups and teens and older kids about fry bread and the history and all of those things that the book was alluding to. So I hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great